public gallery. Welcome to this special council meeting being held on Monday, the 27th of February 2023. I declare this meeting open at 7:02 p.m. I'd also like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional land of the Noongar people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to advise members of the public gallery that this meeting is being audio recorded in accordance with council policy. If you are asking a public question or making a statement or deputation to the meeting, this will be audio recorded. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed. Item number 1 is attendances and apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Strange and from Mr. Fraser Sullivan, the Director of Corporate Services, this evening. Item 2 is public question time. There has been no public questions submitted in writing prior to the meeting, so we'll open public questions to the floor for tonight's meeting. As under the Local Government Act, we are required to offer 15 minutes of public question time. So is there any public questions from the floor this evening? That being that there's no public questions at tonight's meeting. Item 3 is public statement time, which is nil as there was no public statements submitted prior to the meeting. Item 4 is petitions and deputations, of which there is nil. Item 5 is declaration of councillors and officers' interest, of which there is nil. Item 6 is receipt of reports. 6.1 is the Community Perception Survey 2022. I wish to move the officer's recommendation. Can I please have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Mack. In opening the debate, I'd like to thank the staff for the work that they have put into presenting this report to Council and the workshops that they engaged with councillors for to be able to inform and have some clear discussion with councillors on the outcomes of the survey. As much as people look at the survey and think that it is a very bad result for our Shire, I think when you put it into context with items that are acknowledged and over the timeline of when this survey was done and the growth that we have experienced in that time, it's probably not really a surprise to any of us. The officers have kept the Shire on track to what our community strategic plan has been, which we are coming to the end of that process, which we will go out to community engagement to put together the next community strategic plan. So I think the officer's report actually covers everything. And I think it's a very, when you go through the attachments to this report, is a detailed assessment of what the survey is and how it has been presented to Council. Thank you. Councillor Atwell, would you like to speak or reserve?
Thank you, Madam President. I concur with what you've said on this item. I also think that we, as you said, we are behind. We don't have a big budget and we don't have the money to go around, which is something that we have no control over. We can keep trying to get as much money as possible, etc., to advance ourselves. And I think if we don't keep advancing ourselves, we run in a very awkward position of being stagnant, which I think is, if you look at some of the answers, etc., if we stick to what everybody wants, we will become stagnant. So I agree with what you've said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Councillor Mack.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And I'd like to echo your sentiments there, that I appreciate the work that the officers have put in, and they have done a great amount of work on this officer's recommendation. The only part that I'm actually objected to is 0.5 in the officer's recommendation here, which is for a values and culture workshop for elected members to be done at a cost of approximately $4,400 to be funded from the members of council. And I'd like to foreshadow that if this motion was to be lost, that I'll put in an alternate motion, as I circulated earlier this evening, for the $4,000 to be funded from councillor attendance and councillor allowances, which we can go into a bit more later should this one be lost. I guess my reason for that is we are sitting 4 months out from a round of council elections, and we're looking at putting through a values and culture workshop, which I think would be of greater benefit to the ratepayers if it was done during an election or post an election rather than just prior. And I do see that, yes, my figure here of 4 months, I'm actually looking at once this has passed, it would only be roughly 4 months from the point of which we actually conducted the workshop, not from today, I will add. So yes, I'm actually all for all of the points in the officer's recommendation, just the funding of which would be put towards the values and culture workshop for elected members. And as Councillor Atwell had just stated, we are short of money, and that is widely acknowledged. So why are we going to be paying extra money out of the funds from council to fund this training when we are heading straight into an election campaign? I think it would be either better served afterwards. However, that said, if we take it out of the councillors' attendance fees and the councillings, there is no cost then to the ratepayer above and beyond. And I think it does add value for this current group of councillors to do the training and improve the way and the efficiency that we can provide to our ratepayers. So with that, I think it would. I have, like as I said, I've foreshadowed an alternate motion to change the funding source.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Is there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion?
Madam President, I'm not wishing to speak, but I'd like to ask a few questions, if I may.
Councillor Bias, yes.
Given the foreshadowed motion, I just want to understand all options that are on the table. So my questions to the CEO, because I understand something like this has similarly come up previously, and I'm fairly certain the advice we received that under the Local Government Act, that can't actually be achieved because the Act stipulates that payments are to councillors by the budgeting process. They can't necessarily be deviated for alternate purposes unless the budget entertains that. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to do it in order to achieve the time frame for these workshops. Can I get some advice on that?
Thank you, Councillor Bias, through the chair. The Manager of Governance and I did have a discussion with Councillor Mack about this matter this afternoon. You might recall that Council each year sets the amount of the fees and allowances it takes within the band that the state government says that you must have the allowances in. And the council sets that at 75% of that band currently. So we were of the view this afternoon that in fact what Councillor Mack is proposing is possible, in that the council could decide by resolution, if it wanted to reduce its sitting fees to accommodate that. Granted, we didn't spend a lot of time to think about it, to be honest, but that was certainly our sort of view. If the council resolved to reduce the sitting fees, as long as no elected member was getting paid less than the minimum, That would be the proviso to that. I'll ask the manager of governance if he wants to add anything more to that.
Before he does jump in, I'll just clarify the question a bit more, because there's a bit of confusion that I have about the alternate that's been proposed, because that's for the 22-23 financial year. Am I understanding correctly? So how does that match with the timeline that you're suggesting in terms of running this workshop?
Oh, so you'll see in the officer recommendation it proposes that this workshop would be, officers are proposing this workshop conducted in the current financial year we're in now. So,
and I guess this is the source of my confusion. So council sets the budget, in which part sitting fees are a part of that, so could achieve that in the 22-23 financial year, but that would be effectively postponing the workshop until that new budget has been formed in order to allow for this funding mechanism to occur.
now you've confused me. My understanding from what Councillor Mack is proposing, and I'll ask the manager of governance to assist in answering the question, with his alternative that is foreshadowed, keeping in mind that we are dealing with a live motion on the books now, is that sometime between now and June, the workshop would be held in accordance with the resolution, if that was the case. And that would be funded by the councils agreeing to reduce their sitting fees for that month to pay for the $4,400 for the workshop. And so given that councillors set by resolution their fees and allowances for the year, if the council resolved to change those fees and allowances for some particular instance, the very limited thought we had discussion this afternoon about it, we don't particularly see any potential barrier to that. I might ask the manager of governance to clarify any of that.
Largely, this is an exercise in managing items in buckets, and council is true. The council has set the. It's true. The council has set the fees and allowances for the year, and then resolve those in the budget. During the course of the year, there are always overs and unders in those things. We actually currently have an underspend in council fees as a result of the vacation of the two positions on council for part of this year. During the mid-year budget paper or process, what to do with those unspent fees will be determined by council. In that case, at the moment, officers are proposing that they are used to partially offset the election fees. That wasn't what we envisaged at the start of the year when we set the budget, because we didn't envisage that we would be without two councillors for a period. I don't believe that council tonight needs to do the budget adjustment for what is being proposed by the foreshadowed motion, but that would be done at a subsequent meeting, potentially through that mid-year budget review process. Ultimately, though, this is an exercise in moving money in buckets. It is not a case of us, I suppose, drawing down on council's bank accounts to make payments and things like that. It is principally an accounting exercise that can be cleaned up at a subsequent council paper.
Thank you, Mr. Theo, and thank you to the manager of governance.
Thank you, Councillor Bias. Is there any other councillor that would like to speak for the motion? I will close out by first off saying I think that there is a lack of understanding of what the values and cultural workshop for elected members actually is. It's not so much a training session. What it is setting of a set of values and culture of how the Council of Serpentine Jarrahdale would operate. It's not so much to actually train councillors in any one aspect or a couple of aspects. There has been a number of local governments in WA that have undergone the values and cultural workshops and set a set of values and a culture for their local governments of how their council will operate and how it works together. I can understand Councillor Mack's foreshadowing his alternate motion that he's put forward. Given the fact that some of the items that he has raised and what the values and cultural workshop actually is, council might actually be better off postponing that workshop until after the election and having a new council go through and set that. So it might not be something that is valued at this time, given the understanding or lack thereof from councillors to exactly what it is. I'm quite happy to put this item to the vote. All those in favour of the motion before us? All those against? Motion is lost 3-5. Councillor Matt.
Sorry, Madam President, can I ask what's so humorous?
Minute Secretary, Councillor Byers has requested that the votes are recorded, please.
Sorry, this is actually being recorded, so I'd like to know, Madam President, why you think this is so funny. This is actually very serious.
I agree with you, Councillor Coles.
Okay,
I think
so can you please ask why you're laughing?
It is a very serious issue that we
Yeah.
are dealing with here.
Yeah. So can you please answer my question as to why you're laughing?
I'm a happy person, Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President, I'd like to ask Councillor Coles the same question, why he was laughing while the President was making her statement. Thank you.
Did you want me to respond, Madam President?
I think we'll move on.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Mack has foreshadowed a alternate motion. Councillor Mack.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So I'd like to put forward a motion as written in the officer's recommendation with the changes to point 5 that requests that the Chief Executive Officer to organise a values and culture workshop for elected members at a cost of approximately $4,400 to be funded by an equal percentage reduction in councillor attendee fees and allowances in the 2022-23 financial year for the month of which the workshop is held.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Can I have a seconder for that motion, please?
Madam President, could I just ask a question before we go to seconders, or wait till after?
I'd like a seconder first. Thank you. Can I have a seconder for this motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor D'Agostino, your question?
Thanks, Madam President. Could I ask Councillor Mack if he'd be prepared to put a time frame in there, perhaps after the upcoming local elections, local government elections?
Short answer to that would be no. I guess I would. I do think that there is some value in actually getting this done. I guess I would be happy to, if it were to be foreshadowed again for another motion for that to happen, depending on debate. But I would like to debate the motion as proposed.
Madam President, I have a quick question because I'm not really of understanding of that alternate motion.
Councillor Strong.
Thank you, Madam President. I see there 2022-23, then elections going to put this into financial year 23-24. So is the alternate motion seeking to get funding now for future councillors that some councillors now might not be a future councillor?
Councillor Stratton's, my understanding of the alternate motion put forward from Councillor Mack is that point 5 will change to read, request the Chief Executive Officer to organise a values and cultural workshop for the elected members at a cost approximately $4,400 to be funded from member of council's consultancy, to be funded by an equal percentage reduction in councillor attendee fees and allowances in the 2022-23 financial year for the month in which the workshop held.
Madam President, I might just assist by clarifying here if I can. And maybe this is my poor wording of the advice to Councillor Mack. My understanding was Councillor Mack, when he asked me for the wording, was proposing that this would be done in this form in the current financial year as per what the officer recommendation says. And when I look at the wording there, we've left that bit off. So Councillor might like to add that wording with the consent of the seconder, so it's clear what financial year the workshop's proposed to happen in.
So I guess the last bit there where it was stated for the month in which the workshop was to be held, I guess was my way of indicating that I was expecting that workshop to be held in this financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Mack.
So words in this financial year could be added to the end of that if the mover and seconder are in agreement to make it very clear when it would occur.
Councillor Mack,
Yes, I'd be happy with that.
Councillor Duggan,
Yes, I'm happy with that. Thanks.
thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Councillor Bias, your amendment?
Replaces item 5 with postpones the Values and Cultures Workshop until, well, postpones consideration of the Values and Cultures Workshop until after the October 23 local government election.
Thank you, Councillor Bias. Can I please have a seconder for the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Is there anybody opposed?
Can I just ask a point of clarification? Is Councillor Vice, are you proposing to replace all of point 5 with your point 5 or amend the wording of the current motion to point 5?
No, so it would replace the current 5, which is actioning the Values and Culture Workshop, with postponing consideration of the workshop until after the local government election. So it's not negating it. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that consideration of the workshop and the funding for that workshop should occur after the local government election issue.
So leave part 5 in the substantial motion and replace in part 5.
If that makes it clearer, I'm happy with that. Thank you, Manager of Governance.
Could I suggest that you might have the words included, postpones consideration of the Values and Culture Workshop for elected members until after the, just so the heading's the same?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Whatever we need to add to bring it into alignment with that, I'm happy.
Councillor Strautins, are you happy with that change?
Yeah, agree.
Thank you, Councillor Bias and Councillor Straughtons. Is there anybody opposed to this amendment? Thank you, Councillor Coles, Councillor Duggan. Councillor Bias, would you like to open debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll keep my remarks brief. I think this is an important body of work that needs to be progressed, and what I'm hearing from people around the table is that we're really getting bogged down in this final 0.5. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the October election is going to bring, but I would hate to see a lot of time and effort invested in an activity, and then who knows what happens post the next local government election. I think if anyone's going to invest time, effort, energy into this, it should be the new council with the popularly elected president leading it to really come together and define the values and culture of that future council. So I'd hate to see wasted time, effort and money on an activity that really would be beneficial for a new council led by a popularly elected president. And Madam President, that's why I'm happy to put forward this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bias. Councillor Straughtons, would you like to speak or reserve?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few words. Absolutely. Look, I think the two motions that have been put forward have a 0.5. There's rather similar. I found it difficult to dissect the two. So I like this third alternate to 0.5. And I would like to add that councillors already have voted to reduce their sitting fees. And I think it's quite possible that if councillors in the next budget decide to continue that it might be opportune for those councillors to actually put a mention there that as part of reducing the fees, some of the savings could be put towards funding this in the future. That's just an option, but that's of course why we leave it to future councillors at this point to consider it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Madam President. Quite simply, I find it quite perplexing that we would sit here and we would say we don't want to do a values and culture workshop because there could be an election in October, or there will be an election in October. Just think about this for a moment, fellow councillors. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. That's another 8 ordinary council meetings this team will be part of. I use that term team loosely, but us as councillors, another 8 ordinary council meetings, plus who knows how many special council meetings there will be between now and October. There will be probably 16 policy concept forums. There will be at least 2 CEO Employment Committee meetings, another 2 Audit, Risk and Governance meetings. Suffice to say, we've gone out to the community, we've listened to the community, or hopefully we listen to the community, and the community have told us unequivocally there is an issue with councillors, there's an issue with leadership. And I will take ownership of that because it's not just one person as a leader, it's all 9 of us that are leaders in this organisation. So when we go out to the community and we hear issues from the community about leadership, about councillors not listening, and it's on page 8 of the agenda. Some of the comments referred to the behaviour and conduct of elected members, and if councillors are working together as a team. In response to this, officers are recommending council participate in a values and culture workshop. Not 10 minutes ago, we heard people say we value the report that the officers have put together. Not 15 minutes ago have we said we appreciate the work that's gone into this. We've also said we're here to listen to the community. It is in black and white on 8 font Arial on page 8 of the agenda. Many comments referred to questioning if the elected members are listening to what the residents wanted. Officers expected this to relate to major decisions the council has made recently. We're not listening to the community. There's poor leadership. We are the 3rd worst ranking shire or local government agency in Western Australia. We are the 3rd worst in Western Australia. We use a sporting analogy. That's not a bad thing because there's only one way for us to go, and that's to go up. For us to go up, the first thing we need to do is commit. We need to commit as individuals. I've been told many a time in this place we're not a team and we never will be. Okay, maybe that's the case. But there's another 8 council meetings for us to try and work collegiately, for us to try and show respect to people. And there's been incidences in the last couple of meetings of comments being made, noises being made, which is not conducive to us to make good, sound decisions for the community. Hey, $4,400 may not be the panacea. It may not be the answer for us to start to work as a team. But guess what? It is showing the community 2 things. One, that we're prepared to listen to them. And secondly, literally, we're prepared to put our money where our mouth is. I cannot believe that any councillor would get upset about a couple of $100 for us to potentially work better as a team. I've seen some funny things in the last 5 years sitting on council. This is an opportunity for us to come together as individuals and try and provide a better service to the community. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. another 8 ordinary council meetings. And guess what? I'll leave the best till last. What do we do in May and June and July? We set the budget. Wouldn't it be nice for councillors to come together collegiately to look at the values of what we do as individuals, to work for the community, to have those shared values? We may not always agree. And you know what? There'll be people at this table that probably disagree with me on this, but I would never, ever want to be on council with 8 other people that agreed with me. I do not want that. What I want, and what I've always wanted in the last 5 years in this place, was to have a group of councillors that had different opinions, that could come together. Every person's opinion was valued. We listen to their opinion, we make a decision. We might not always agree, but once that decision is made and everyone has felt that they've been listened to, that they've been respected, we can then potentially go and have a cup of tea next door and talk as a team. That is all I've ever hoped for. One day, I hope that I'm in this place with a team that works like that. One day. Councillors, this is an opportunity for us to put our money where our mouth is. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Coles. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? For the amendment, I'm sorry. Thank you. We will take the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? We will take the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? It is a tied vote, so with my casting vote, the motion is carried.
We have votes recorded, please, Madam President. Thanks.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? We will return to the substantive motion with the inclusion of the amendment.
Madam President, just give the Minute Secretary a chance to combine the two together so that when council considers it, we know exactly what we're moving and seconding, or sorry, voting on, please.
Councillor Stroughton is the 4th that voted for the motion. For the substantive motion, we have a mover in councillor Mack and a seconder in councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to the substantive motion? Councillor Mack, you are the mover, so you are against the substantive motion?
If I might clarify then, so just as a matter of procedure for myself, would we be able to foreshadow the original motion without the amendments should this overall one be lost?
I'd ask the Manager of Governance to answer your question because we're now deep into the standing orders.
Yes, so there is provisions regarding negated motions. So you can't have an amendment to immediately amend back to what it was because that vote has been taken. It would it would require a revocation, essentially.
In that case, I'm not opposed, Madam President.
Sorry, councillor Mack.
Sorry, in that case, I won't be opposed to the motion.
Thank you. Is there anybody else opposed to the motion?
Madam President, I don't want to second that motion as it stands now. Thanks.
So councillor Duggan, you are withdrawing your seconding of that motion?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Coles?
I was going to say I'm opposed to it. And I'm just wanting some clarification because fundamentally this motion, as it's been amended, is completely against what the original motion is. So I'm not doubting any decisions that have been made, but this is quite concerning that a motion has been moved, it's been seconded. We've now got an amendment to it, which is completely different to what the motion was moved by the mover and seconder. And I notice that the seconder has now withdrawn the second.
Manager of Governance to respond to, I presume it's a question, Councillor Cole.
So in my viewpoint, the motion put forward to council, the live motion that was moved involved 5 elements. Obviously, one of the elements, the 5th element, was the holding of the workshop. If this was a planning matter, for example, and it concerned the building of a shed, then a motion that negated the live motion would be to not build the shed. But the council could disagree through amendments on whether the shed was blue or green or the like. Similarly here, the base of the motion, in my humble opinion, is the receipt of the community perception survey results, the actions associated with that, the acknowledgement of the people who participated, and in the 5th session there, the holding of a workshop, and distinct from that, the timing of the workshop and the method by which that workshop is to be funded. In my view, an amendment that seeks to revise the timing of that workshop does not negate the 5-part motion in its fullness.
Thank you, Manager.
Can I ask a question, please? Is it
Councillor
possible to foreshadow a motion that would include the points 1 to 4 with point 5 removed if this motion is lost?
Madam President, if it helps, considering that this alternate motion is now completely different to the one that I put in, I would be happy to withdraw the motion that I've put forward.
Councillor Mack, I don't think it's as easy as that, given that the officer's recommendation has been voted down by council. So we can't go back to that motion without rescinding that motion. So if you would like to put forward a revocation motion to rescind the earlier decision, to then re-look at the original motion.
Madam President, I draw your attention and other council's attention to item of the Standing Orders 10.15, which talks about withdrawal of motions and amendments. And our reading of that, and this goes to Councillor Duggan's withdrawal as well, and seconding of that. So the council committee may, without debate, grant leave to withdraw a motion or amendment upon the request of the mover of the motion or amendment and the approval of the seconder, provided that there is no voice expressed to the contrary view by any member, in which case discussion on the motion or amendment is to continue. So my reading of that would be that if there's a councillor who has a contrary view to Councillor Duggan or Councillor Mack withdrawing their moving and seconding of that, then the debate on the motion must continue. Unless the council has a different view, that would be my view, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I am that councillor. I think the debate on this item should continue. We have put forward the officer's recommendation, which was not supported by council. That motion was lost 3-5. We have had a foreshadowed motion, an alternate motion, which has been put forward by councillor Matt. It was seconded by councillor Duggan. And an amendment to that motion was put forward by councillor Bias. It was seconded by councillor Strawtons. And now councillor Duggan has voiced the opinion that she would like to withdraw her seconding of that motion. I am of the view that this item is before council and we need to deal with it. So my view is that we need to deal with it.
Madam President, may I ask my question again, please? And that is, if this motion is lost, can we foreshadow another option that is option 1 with points 1 to 4 and point 5 removed, please?
Given, I'll ask the Manager of Governance for assistance in asking this question if I can, Madam President.
Yeah, I don't see any drama with that particularly for the same reason that I outlined before in terms of it being an amendment, that the 5th point is one of 5 elements associated with the. Thanks,
Director of Governance.
Madam President, would I also ask, would it not be appropriate if I wanted to withdraw moving my motion, but other councillors were opposed and wanted to debate the issue, that it would be moved by somebody who was actually in support of this motion?
Councillor Mack, you are the mover of the motion that we have that is live. Councillor Duggan is the seconder, and according to item 10.15, the withdrawal of motion and amendments, if any councillor voices the contrary to the view of any member, I have voiced that opinion. My belief is that the motion has been moved. It has been seconded. There has been an amendment made, which has been supported by council. So the item should continue with the mover and seconder to that motion.
Thank you, Madam President.
Is there anybody opposed to the motion that we have before us? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Mack, would you like to open debate, please?
Madam President, just confirming that Councillor Duggan is the seconder.
Yes.
Still.
Thank you. Councillor Mack, would you like to open debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I guess it's going to be kind of hard to speak for the motion now when I'm possibly not in support of the, well, the 5th option here has been obviously voted for by council to be discussed in this motion. I do support the first 4 motions as they are and look forward to hearing some debates around the 0.5.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Councillor Duggan, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'll speak. Thanks, Madam President. I find it quite disconcerting that there can be the situation where an alternate motion, which I feel, even though it's only 1 of 5 points, it is a significant part of the option, can make such a significant difference to the motion. And therefore, although my name may be up there seconding it, I do not support the motion, and I foreshadow option 1 without 0.5 if this is lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd go a little bit further than what we've just heard. What I would say is that we've got the officer's recommendation that was lost. The key point in the officer's recommendation and this motion here is 0.5. Now, that may only be 20% of the motion, but I would argue that is a critical part of this. We had a councillor at 6:02 this evening move an alternate motion that differed to the officer's recommendation by 1 point. 1 point only. And that was 0.5. That is the critical part of this motion. I'm going to stop short of saying what I feel. However, it is quite clear that there are issues at play here. This motion is completely against what the alternate motion was, and it's completely against the intent behind what the council want to move. And I'm not having to go up the standing orders, and I understand that when the minister, when he changes everything else, he's going to change. There's going to be a standard set of standing orders across all local governments in WA. And I think that's what we need. I think tonight's showing us that this is concerning. I won't take that any further. What I will say is, again, perhaps if we had this meeting in 4 meetings' time, we had a culture and workshop between now and then, we wouldn't be sitting here going around in circles trying to guess what other councillors want, because whilst we don't always have to agree, we have to respect each other. And I think tonight we are short of respecting each other. It is quite clear, councillors, what is happening here. It is quite clear that there are councillors who want to move something, and there's other things that have been done tonight to stop that from happening. What I will say, again, is perhaps it's actually quite ironic that we're sitting here arguing this point 5 about a values and culture workshop. So I'll put it on the table, councillors. If we had a values and culture workshop, we would not be sitting here tonight arguing about such a critical, important motion that's now taken us some 25 minutes to discuss. I don't want to say anything more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. I will draw your attention to point 8.4, adverse reflection number 2. No member of the council or a committee is to use offensive or objectionable expressions in reference to any member, employee of the council or any other person. You have cast aspersions on councillors with your debate for this item. Can you please apologise and withdraw?
I don't believe I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Are you refusing to apologise and withdraw your
I made comments in debate, and I'll stand by the comments I made. Thank you, Madam President.
May I ask the question, who is it that the councillors are that have been, that you refer to? That are...
Councillor Coles has made reference to other councillors and agendas around the table tonight.
Which councillors, if I may ask?
He didn't name a councillor, he just made the expression on councillors. It doesn't matter which councillor or councillors that it is, the expression has been made, and under 8.4, adverse reflections, it is an offence under the standing orders.
I think that's open to a very broad interpretation, but thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, councillors. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam President. Let's face it, it all boils down to the $4,500 that Councillor Mack has envisaged we should put back into the, we should forego, or the councillor should forego. Personally, it doesn't worry me one iota about the $4,000. I think it's a bloody principle of the whole matter. Whereas if we start setting precedents like that, like this, how far are we going to go? Every time we have some sort of a problem, are the councillors going to have to put into their pockets or be asked to put into their pockets for it? That's not the way things work. And to go on about the community.
Madam President, can I have a point of order?
Excuse me, what point of order have we got?
Councillor Coles?
Sorry, I don't believe this alternate motion actually addresses anything to do with money. It's to do with the timing. So I'll just ask the Deputy President to actually keep to point during debate, and not talk about things that are relevant. Thank you.
Number, I'll put forward the number of the point of order that you have called.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll get my notes out. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Apologies for the delay, especially for those who are listening at home. 15.4, paragraph A for Apple.
Thank you, councillor Coles. The point of order you have called is 15.4 of the standing orders, points of order when valid. The following are to be recognised as valid points of order. You have nominated point A, which reads that the discussion is of a matter not before council or committee. I am going to overrule the point of order. It is an item that is before council, and Councillor Atwell, please continue with your debate.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I think I'm not sure of that bit. Also, I would like to acknowledge that we do actually take a bigger than 25% cut in allowances and fees because we didn't take a indexation rise, I believe. Can't remember exactly when. But also, the only thing that sort of seems to be in question here is well, I can't see any other thing apart from the money, because the proposal still allows for the cultural workshop. So honestly, I'm bewildered as to what other matter is holding this thing up or is of concern here. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Mack, would you like to close, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to point out that other than the money, it is the timing. And as had been discussed, we do have a length of time now. I think I mentioned when I originally spoke about this debate about it could be 4 months. We don't have a crystal ball to know when we can organise the workshop, but if it were to be organised straight away, it could be 8 months. 8 months of value that we could have got out of the workshop. So just to Councillor Atwell's question there, I think the timing is equally important here. Whilst it wasn't the intent of the original motion, but probably the one that is in question with this alternate motion as it stands. And I'll be happy to put to a vote.
Thank you, councillor Mack. All those in favour of the motion we have before us? All those against? Motion, the votes are 4-4. Motion is carried with a casting vote. Thank you, councillors. Minute Secretary, Councillor Byers has requested that the votes are recorded, please.
And Madam President, I will need a reason for the difference in the officer recommendation from a councillor.
Councillor Mack, would you like to provide as the mover, provide the reason for the difference?
Madam President, I certainly would not, as I did not support the motion that was hand.
Thank you, councillor Mack. Councillor Duggan, as a seconder, would you like to provide the reason for the difference?
As recorded, I didn't support the vote either. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Byers, as the mover of the amendment, would you like to please provide a reason for the difference?
To allow for, can you just scroll up actually so I can see the exact wording? To allow for the new council elected in October 2023 to benefit from the values and culture workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Byers. Item 6.2, Strategic Community Plan, Major Review Community Engagement Plan. I am happy to move the officer's recommendation for this item. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Byers. Is there anybody opposed to this motion?
Madam President, I'd question, if I may, before I make up my mind whether I'm opposed, I would ask whether you would consider an amendment as to the alternate motion I passed around earlier, with the idea that we actually have a reference point back to the
Councillor Mack, I have looked at the alternate you have put forward. It actually blurs the lines between the Strategic Community Plan Major Review and the Community Perception Survey. They are two different items. We will go through a budget process later this year, which will deal with the Strategic Community Plan and the items put forward by the community, and the tail end of the Strategic Community Plan, which is already in place, which both are different to the Community Perception Survey, and it is greatly blurring the lines between the two. They are two separate items.
In that case, Madam President, yes, I will be against the motion.
Thank you. Councillors, in opening the debate for this item, I have been through a Strategic Community Plan major review in my time on council. The significant growth that the Shire has felt in the time since the last Strategic Community Plan major review was done is significant. And it goes away to explaining some of the comments we see from our community. We've had roughly probably somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 new residents move into the Shire since the last major review of the Community Strategic Plan. They are predominantly people that have moved from suburban areas, and the expectation is high for the level of service that they expect. I'm not saying that that expectation is wrong, but what we as councillors all know is that we are a fast-growing local government with limited funds that is held up as an example against other local governments that have much larger community and rate bases than what we have. We are a large area geographically, and we have very similar road networks to local governments that have 2 and 3 times the residents that we do. I actually think that the work that the officers have put into putting together the community engagement plan that is attached to this item, and the time frame that they are wanting to bring this back to council is fantastic. It is a very in-depth engagement plan which goes out and has a number of ways to cover as much of our community as it possibly can. So I am happy to actually endorse this recommendation that we have before us. Councillor Bice, would you like to speak or reserve? Thank you. Councillor Mack.
Thank you, Madam President, and I do echo some of the sentiments that you just said. However, I would like to foreshadow, if this motion were to not be carried, an alternate motion as I distributed earlier this evening. The reason behind that, you say that it can blur the lines between the Strategic Community Plan and the Community Engagement Plan and the major review projects. I guess when we're looking at the Strategic Community Plan, it is important to remember the key stakeholders here, and that is the community. And the community has just given us a perception survey. They have told us what it is that they see as being the areas in greatest need of action. And I simply wanted to add in some references back to that Strategic Community Plan to ensure, references to the perception survey of 2022, to ensure we actually remain focused on what it is our community want us to focus on, that we don't just have a community perception survey that we've just had, and in 6 months' time we have completely lost the direction that we are we've asked our community to direct us into. So it was more just an opportunity to ensure that we are going back to what our community has said and ensuring that what they have told us is making up the part of our Strategic Community Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the motion? I will close for this item. And I'll draw councillor Mack's attention back to the item we have previously dealt with tonight. There is a detailed table as part of that report from officers of how we will deal with and move forward with the information that was provided by our community as part of the community perception survey, and how we will deal with that moving forward over the next few months, much of which is already been in play before tonight's meeting. This strategic community plan major review takes our community through until 2033. This is a forward-looking plan for our community, and this is why it is so important that we reach out and we have engagement with so many of our community to make sure that we capture that 7,000 to 8,000 members of our community that have moved into the area since the last strategic community major review was undertaken. Our community is changing, it is evolving, and we need to be able to engage with as many people as we possibly can to make sure that the strategic direction that we set as councillors, with the information that is provided by our community, in line with what we are able to afford, reflects our community through to 2033. I think the officers have done a fantastic job in what they have put forward in the earlier item to actually capture and make sure that we are listening to our community. I think all councillors around this table would agree that we listen to our community. Councillor Coles, do you have a problem?
Sorry, Madam President, I'm trying to look at you. Is that an issue for you?
That was the way you looked at me. I'm sorry. I thought that you had an issue with
No,
what
not at
I
all.
said.
I'll just put my hand up. I had a question. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We have a very diverse community that have a diverse range of wants and needs across a very large geographical area. It is not an easy thing for any local government to manage an area the size that we have, with the different industries, the different lifestyles. And I think that the community engagement plan that is attached to this item, with the support of all councillors, engaging with the community and attending as many events as they possibly can, and getting the community involved to have their say and put forward their view, is highly important to the success of this strategic community plan major review. Thank you, councillors. All those in favour of this motion? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? Motion is carried 6-2. Thank you, councillor Byers. Minute secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? Thank you, Minute Secretary. Item 7 is motions of which notice has been given, of which there is nil. Item 8 is urgent business, of which there is nil. Item 9 being closure, I declare this special council meeting closed at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everyone.